Our mission, and we choose to accept it, is zero injuries and zero environmental impact. A healthy workforce and environment is key to our nation's continued success. The Mission Zero podcast is a deep dive with the industry's top experts into the health, safety, and environmental aspects of today's workplace. Our mission is to be a platform for new ideas and strategies that, when implemented, will improve our safety, our environment, and how we govern out business. We are making the world safer, and we're going to have fun doing it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of the Mission Zero podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Peoples. Today is my guest is named Dominique McGee, a very, very special guest. Welcome, Dominique.
Welcome. Thank you.
Today starts a series of interviews that I'm going to be conducting that concern something very near and dear to my heart that's coming into my heart recently, and something I thought I could do, or at least something I can do, and that is tell the stories of people who have survived sexual and human trafficking, one of the worst scourges on the earth right now. A lot of people don't know a lot about it, so one of the major things I really wanted to do is just get the stories out there for people who may not have met anyone, who may not know the stories, who may not have a clue about the world and just how bad it is and just how bad this problem is. So my first guest, Dominique, you are a survivor.
Yes, I am.
You are a survivor, but as we were talking right before we've been recording, what drew me to you, you and I met at the 1211 Partners event a couple of weeks ago, which I volunteered for as well.
Right.
What in a wonderful organization. Please, if you're listening, look it up. Consider donating to that organization. It's a wonderful organization. But what drew me to you was looking for across the room. I could see your spirit. This woman had spirit for everybody in the entire land. And so it was a wonderful thing to do, and I learned you're a survivor, and I wanted to talk to you today about your life because it happened to you, but it didn't define you. You're an incredible woman now doing almost, I just had your list of what you do in this world, and it made me tired reading it. So what I would like to do today is sit back and listen. I would like... my first question to you is, a little bit about your childhood, where you grew up, and your family, and I guess we'll start there. So,
okay. Well, again, my name is Dominique McGee, and to start with the beginning of my story, I am an Atlantic City, New Jersey native. I am a child of the state. Means my parents, I grew up in the 80s, so my parents were in the forefront of the drug epidemic, so I fast became a state child. A distant family member of my father came in to get custody of us because my mother had 8 children, and she didn't take care of any of us. She actually pushed me out and walked away from the hospital. So I don't know the beginning part of my life, but I do know that when I met my pop-pop, my father's aunt's husband, he was Italian, Irish, and Scottish, and he wanted us all to grow up knowing each other. So he went all out to find each one of us and bring us into one household. And he took care of a whole bunch of other children at the same time, so it was a lot of us in one house. And it was a lot of bad things going on in that one house. So I really didn't have a sense of belonging growing up. I didn't know who I was or where I was supposed to belong in this world. And growing up in type of an orphanage setting, with what happens in his house stays in his house, and a lot of bad things went on. So when we all hit a certain age, like around 13, 14, we all left.
The orphanage?
Yes, we all left the house. We all ran away to find our own way. I came up at 13. And I went to my pop-pop. He was the greatest. He tried everything he could for us and especially me, because he knew that I didn't have what I needed to. Like, in reality, like, this girl doesn't know what love feels like. She doesn't know what love her mother or father feels like, but I'm trying to...
Was your pop-pop your grandfather?
No, I just call him pop-pop because that was his name. He was our state guardian.
Okay.
But we called him pop-pop.
Okay,
that's how he wanted
to be clarify.
Seen. Yeah. Okay. And he really raised us with all the morals and values. He tried. I can't take anything from what he tried to do in my life. But it was a lot of pain from the beginning. And he tried to cover it, but he couldn't, because the more I grew up, it was more of an identity crisis. It was more of, I'm not happy here. I'm not happy in the world. Where am I supposed to be? So when I hit 13, it was like my older sisters and brothers were gone. I was the last. So I'm like, you're going to leave me here to be next up for whatever happened to you guys? And my an offense to my older sisters is not for me to tell her story and whatever happened to her. But I ran away. I ran to my sister's house and I told her I couldn't take it anymore. I need to be out here. I need to be with you. And she took me in. And at that point, I thought I could handle the world. And I went looking for...
What age was this?
13.
Okay.
13, yeah. I thought I could handle the world. And I thought I was running from what I couldn't take anymore into what I could handle, and I couldn't. The world was so big. It was worse than what I could ever imagine. And I was running in every area looking for love. I found my mother out there, and she was still on drugs. She was really bad. She didn't have any love for me. So it was kind of like I didn't belong. So I began to try to connect with different relationships. I was gang raped under the Ocean One Mall at 13 by 18 men and exploited because they left me there, and the next day the newspapers went crazy. It was a big thing. It was just really bad. Once the court case happened, they shipped me off to Georgia, get her out the city. And that's when I met my original family. Like, okay, you got family. You got a grandmother. You got an uncle. You got family. And this was probably what, at my point in life, 13 turning 14, I felt like it was a blessing. It wasn't so. My grandmother, I give her this. She wanted so much from me, but we never had a relationship. We never knew each other. So I kind of felt like she owed me an explanation, and she didn't. My uncle was kind of one of the groomers. He knew what happened to me, and he started to use that to groom me into sexual advances with him. I would give you an allowance if you allow me to do this. I would do this.
Are you still 13 at this point?
I just turned 14.
Okay.
And I walked into a world where I was like, oh, wow, this is all I'm ever going to be worth. And before the end of the school year I went to my brother because he went down south with me. And I was like, I can't. Uncle's trying to have sex with me. What am I going to do? And he was like, we don't have any way out. You have to wait until the end of the school year. We'll figure out a way home. Man, I gathered the money myself.
Yeah.
And I got into so much trouble because I wanted them to send me home.
Yeah.
And when I actually got home, I went home and I told my sister what happened. And she called back down south, and it was a big fight. My family disowned me. It was it.
This is in Georgia.
Yeah, they disowned me. Don't help her. Don't talk to her. Nothing. That's it. Because what I was saying was against what they wanted me to say.
Sure.
And my uncle's like, I didn't touch you. I didn't do anything wrong to you, but what you were doing. If I allowed this to happen and I fell into it, my uncle would have been touching me. He would have been having sex with me, but me coming from where I just came from, I couldn't. So I went back up north with my sister, and 14 turning 15 in school, it was really rough. She, to be honest, she didn't have it easy either.
This is New Jersey.
Yes.
Is this an urban area? Or?
Atlantic City.
Okay. So
Atlantic City, it's all urban.
All urban, yeah, okay.
It's all urban. We're in the middle of the hood.
Okay.
Dead smack in the middle of the hood. It's nothing but violence, drugs, trouble, everything. Mm-hmm. I spent most of my nights partying with my sister out when I should have been in school. Most of my nights trying to figure out who I was, where did I belong. I really wanted to kill myself most of my childhood. I ended up meeting a guy who was 37. And I'm 15 at this point. Mm. Yeah. And they allowed me to date him. And then he was the most abusive person I encountered. And this man used to beat me and beat me and beat me. And I was pregnant. Soon later, I found out 5 months later, I was pregnant. And I was like, whoa, this is bad. This is really bad. I had to walk away from school. And I was a star athlete. I ran track.
Nice.
I did cheerleading. I was crazy. I would even play soccer. I wanted to play football. I could lift weights more than boys.
Yeah.
It was everything that was inside of me I would push it into something else. But the support system wasn't there.
Gotcha.
My environment was just reckless. It was dangerous. It was trouble. And as a young girl,
Be careful.
Okay.
Hitting the table. I think you may knock the microphone a little loose. So.
okay.
Go ahead.
As a young girl, you wonder why am I here?
Yeah.
If your mother doesn't love you, if your father doesn't love you, why are you here?
Mm.
If everyone is going to touch you who comes in contact with you, who is supposed to care for you and be there for you, why are you here? So my mind was straight survival mode way before I even entered into trafficking. And it was the fact that this man was abusing me in this current relationship. Me and my sister relationship was broken, done, get out. It was it. So I was in the full hands of my abuser. And
At 15.
At 15.
Okay.
I lived with him and his aunt. I took care of his previous children and his cousins. And he controlled everything about me. Everything. If I went outside and he caught me, he beat me right there. So I knew my place before I even understood. Now, let's not be confused. Atlantic City is full of pimps and this type of lifestyle.
Mm.
It's right outside the casino, wherever you want, it's full.
Yeah.
I'm not a fool or oblivious to this lifestyle, but it never approached me. It was like I live around it, but it wasn't for me. It took for a trafficker to come from New York. And I guess this is what they do. They were scouting the city for talent, what they call young girls.
Yeah.
And I just happened to be the one that they put their mark on. And it was an interesting conversation because the attraction to me was by the way I walked. He stopped and he was like, you just have this wonderful walk. I want to know more about you. I'm a child. And I could look at the shining rims and the gold around his neck and all of these things like this is help.
It's the beginning of the grooming process.
Yes. And he had everything that I needed. And in this, I was scared though, because I was still in a relationship with a man who beat me. And this man is saying, I'm like, I don't know who you are. He's like, I'm a strip club owner. I'm from New York. I got all this money. You can come work for me. At that time, it sounded good, but I was already afraid of what I was in. So I took a card and hurried up and got away from him. And it took at least 2 months later when winter approached. Right after I had my son, the guy I was dating disappeared through the whole time of me giving birth and all, he disappeared. And he came and got me after all of that from my sister's house. It's, oh, you have the baby, good, now you brought it back to me, you come. And I did. I went. Because he proved to me long ago that no one loves me but him. That was my comfort zone.
He felt a void.
Yeah.
He filled a void, excuse me.
That's exactly what he did. And the whoopings were consistent, and it had to be because of something I was doing wrong. I was worth that. I deserved it. So it was only up to me to modify my behavior. Shut up more. Be whatever he wants you to be. Do whatever he wants you to do so you don't have to experience the whooping again. And he'll love you like he did. And it went on from that. Beat you and shower you with gifts. Beat you and take you out. It went on and it was normal. Until the time my son came home from that hospital and I let this man sleep with me in a bed where my son slept in a dresser drawer with a pillow in the bottom. It wasn't until that moment that I realized I had to go. It wasn't right. I needed to provide for this child. The child didn't ask to be here. And right now I was doing exactly what my parents did to me. Neglecting. But I didn't have a parent, so how was I going to know how to be a parent? I tried, before I even used this card, I tried to turn myself into the state. I can't do this. They said, somebody's getting paid for you. We suggest you go there. I'm a state child. So my grandmother was still receiving funds from the state for me. And she had already blackballed me. Only way I could get the help I needed was for me to turn everyone in. And I couldn't. I walked away. I made the call and I took my son to a friend's house. And I promised her I would be gone from Friday to Sunday. I had to make a way and I was going to try. She agreed to keep my secret and keep my son for the weekend. I went to the casino. I'll never forget it. It was Caesars. And I went under there and I went to the payphone and I called him and I broke down. I told him every single thing about me being abused, about me not having any family.
This is the guy that came from New York. Okay.
Yeah. I told him over the phone why I needed him to hire me in his club. Now, this is, the funny thing is, that's what stuck in my mind. Everything he showed me. He had flashy diamonds. He had the nice car. He had the gold. So obviously, he had to be somebody.
Mm-hmm.
He said, okay, I'll come from New York to get you. Stay where you are. I'll be there in a couple hours. I stayed there. At 12 o'clock, I kind of fell asleep on the bench. And something woke me up. I was afraid. I mean, the hair was standing up on my body. My heart was pounding out of my chest, and I didn't know why. And I felt like maybe the guy that I was with was looking for me.
Mm.
And he spent a lot of time gambling. So maybe I felt like I was in the wrong place and I was about to get a whooping for real. Or maybe I was about to put myself in danger. But it was so much alarms going off at once, I couldn't tell. I was just high alert. Like, seriously, something bad is about to happen.
Yeah.
Soon as I got to get up to leave to get to the payphone, the truck pulled in.
Hmm.
He was there. Another girl got out the car. I didn't really pay attention to her. I paid attention to him. I'll never forget, he had all white on and the diamonds were like so gleaming in my eyes. I was like shocked a little bit. I wanted to go, but then I was scared. I told this man, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I wasted your time. I cannot go with you. I cannot leave with you. I tell you right now, he was not going to leave without me.
Yeah.
He didn't come all of this way for me to give out now. When I woke up, my head was hurting.
Oh.
And I was under the Brooklyn Bridge with a gun in my face. And he had all of my belongings in his lap. And he said, if you want to live, you will listen to what I'm about to tell you. And I couldn't even hear what he was saying. I can see his mouth moving. It was like Charlie Brown. And it was very like, what happened? My brain kept shutting down like, is this real? Is this happening to me right now? Yeah. No, it can't be. I come from the hood. Like, I'm one of us. How can you do this to me? What are you saying now? He was saying that if I wanted to see my son again, I would listen and understand that I don't belong to myself anymore. I belong to him. And that I was going to go through a series of protocol. And that he had already contacted my sister. And that he would send her money for me.
How did he know your sister?
Through all of my belongings.
Oh.
And I gave her all of his information before I left.
Okay.
But the thing is, I was so hurt that he said he talked to her.
Yeah. Was it embarrassing? Is that
it was
why,
like, she didn't ask you where I was.
Oh.
She didn't tell you, send me home now or she's going to call the police. It was no, like, what? He began to tell me that it was a network. And if I tried to think that I was going to escape that, I would be dead before I hit New Jersey. So now I'm like, okay, I don't understand I still didn't get it until he got me to the house. And this house was in the brownstone area in upper New York. You would not even think what was inside this house was inside this house. The door locked only from the outside. There was no way to get out.
Yeah.
But he walked me in the house and it was nothing but butt naked girls everywhere. They stripped me naked and they began to scream and yell and jump on me and tell me the whole code.
The girls did?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
I hate
protocol.
to ask, but what is the whole code?
Yes, the whole code is what you do. You don't look at a man in his eyes. You don't speak to a man in his eyes. You ask cops if they're a cop. You know what I mean? You make them touch you. You know what I'm saying? It was the code of what they were about to take me through.
Protocols of behavior.
Yes. And I was like, whoa, hold on. You belong to him now. And you don't go by your name. You are a hoe.
Yeah.
And I'm a child. I'm a fighter.
So at this time, 16, is that right?
Yes.
In this house, I mean, was it the ages of the women there? Were they roughly your age? Were they older, younger?
The 3 that was there were older. One had been with him for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And she loved him more than anything.
Yeah.
The other two, they had been there for quite some time, but not as long as her. There was one that came in after me.
Okay. So roughly 4 or 5 women in the house. Okay.
She was 14.
Okay.
And in this game, it was like, if you were to look at another pimp when they put you out on the street, he owned you. He would rob you. He would kill you. Anything. If you were to speak to the police, you had a certain protocol to say. He changed my identity. He gave me a full-blown ID. He dressed me. He put hair on me. He got my nails done. He brought me my first pair of heels. And then, it wasn't just the strip club taught, like, I'm going to teach you the etiquette of strip club. You can dance, but your job here is to make money.
Yeah.
Your body is what makes you money. And if you don't make it in the strip club, you will walk until sunrise on the track. So either way, you will make what he's telling you. I had fought my first week. I spent almost a year in this life. I spent my first week fighting and getting beat and getting beat and getting beat. And it was to the point where the girl that came in after me, she was 14 from Camden, New Jersey. And she looked at the pimp that I was with. And so therefore, he just walked away with her. And she had a set of twins with the other pimp. And that woke something in my soul that I told her, we're going to get home. We're going to find our kids. And we'll figure it out from there. But because I'm 16 and you're 14, we have no business here. And she was already taken by the street because she knew more about the whole life than I ever could. And that hurt me.
Yeah.
Because I knew about the hood life all day. But this was too much. And that's what woke me up like, I'm going to fight.
Yeah. You know, when I posted pictures of the facts from the 12/11 event, and one of them was the average age of the grooming process starting being 12, I had 4 emails or Instagram messages from people that night going, 12?
Yeah.
Is that real? I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
That's real.
It's real. Because at that age, you're all emotion. You're all desire. You're all want. You don't really know what you want. You can't possibly know what love is at 12.
Yeah.
So someone can manipulate every inch of you, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and make you
feel like a family.
Like it was just so wild to me.
So you were there a year.
Yeah. It was, to me, in the beginning, it was the cars. Getting in the cars. That was more dangerous than any whooping he could give me.
What do you mean?
Because not every man just wants sex.
Oh, you mean of the Johns. Okay.
Some people have sick desires.
Sure.
Sometimes I've had to fight for my life out of cars. And the fact that I'm still here today, it bothers me sometimes because I have to prey on what possibly happened in those situations. When you're going and you think it's just a date and it becomes a rape.
So did he make you work at the strip club as well as on the streets?
Yes.
Okay, so you would have to dance there.
And then all night long after that 2 a.m., I will be on the track till 6.
In this home, was there a process of getting y'all addicted to drugs?
Some girls did drugs. I didn't do drugs until I became autonomous, meaning after I escaped the life and I had to deal with the life.
Deal with the past. Okay.
That's when, because I know I come from drug parents.
Yeah.
You know, that was something that it was never going to be a part of me. Even when it became a part of me, it was like devastating.
So I guess I don't want to get off your story there, because you were there a year. You come to the conclusion that it's time to go because this 14-year-old girl, it's just no way.
No way, because what are we going to do? Our children.
Yeah.
And once you know that if one trafficker takes another trafficker's woman, what loyalty did he owe those kids that were in his custody? Nothing. So what time frame did we have to get her back to him for her children? None.
Yeah.
Because once that pimp called that man and told him, she belongs to me now, it was over for the possibility of where her kids went.
So she had no idea where they are? Did you?
No.
You didn't know?
It was it. A week later, he took us to Miami.
Why did he do that? Was it because you were questioning, or?
No. It's a ring. You can buy them up north and sell them down south. You can work on the track in New York, work on the track in New Jersey, and network to work on the track in Florida. You can network to work the track in Georgia, but you have to have a trafficking network to know what track is jumping at the right time of the right season.
So these people are almost
it's an organization.
Organized crime.
It is. It really much is.
And they're connected like
all
that.
the way connected. We got all the way to Miami, and it was that everybody had to at least make $150,000. But for me, I was being sold. I was going to be sold and never to see my child again. Why? They called me something like, they said, "You ever hear of a Mustang?" I never heard of it. I thought it was a car.
Or a horse.
And that's what they were getting at, a horse.
Yeah.
An unbreakable wild horse. Which would be a hot commodity for someone who knows how to break a woman. And because of how I was, that's how I was seen. So I get all the way down to Miami, and the girls are excited, and I finally reached the point where I might die here. I walked into a warehouse where there were girls tied up everywhere. Young, old, they're older. The bottoms were the ones who shape the new girls that come in. The bottom is the one that's been there the longest, and she's the one that's going to work the hardest for him. So she recruits, she puts all the work in, she teaches the girls the game. That's the one that goes out and does the work. Now, people like me, you send him. Manipulation, master manipulation, psychology, it's a big thing. But when it got me to myself, and I can't beat her into submission because I have already been exposed to a high level of abuse. He almost killed me on the way down. So I knew then I may die here. Again, so when I got to the auction and I actually saw what happens, it's people coming in the country.
So wait, let me hold you there for a second.
Yes.
Because, I guess what you're telling me now, and I can't believe it'll be just me, but I think people listening too, this sounds like a movie. This sounds like
my life is.
It sounds like something I don't think we knew really existed like this. We thought maybe this was made up. Can you, first of all, right here is where, as much as I've learned about all this, I just learned how the ring works. I didn't know it was a nationwide thing and connected people. Okay. And I for sure didn't know there was a such thing as an auction.
Yes.
So you went to an auction. How can you describe this? Where it took place?
It's like a lock-in on South Beach. It's like not too far from South Beach. Once you get out in the outskirts, it might be a prison around. It's been so long, but it's a lock-in warehouse.
Okay.
And when you go in the warehouse, there's different sections, and you got the audience, and then you got the merchandise. The girls. And they name you, and then they bring you out. You don't have clothes, you don't have anything, and they bid on you.
Can you, just is not as much as possible, but just a little bit set up the scenario. Is this does it look like an auction of antiques? Is it men sitting in chairs in a crowd? Is it really like
they're
that?
not sitting down, they're just standing there looking at the girls. Talking amongst each other about different houses, like 6 houses, different tracks that they can work, and which girls will make the best money on different areas and how they'll make the money. And like me, okay, well, I can't do anything with her in New York. She's great merchandise. I've already tested her body. I'll give her for $150. Oh, she doesn't comply? Well, hey, we'll break her here. There's nothing, we'll break her here. So that probably was going to be the beginning of drugs for me.
Okay, so sorry. I it just caught me off guard.
Yes.
I would have never, I'd read things that were included in fictional novels that were similar to the story, but I would have never thought that was a real thing.
Yes.
But so you're at the auction. Go ahead from there. Sorry.
Yeah. So someone puts a price on me, and he comes to rally the girls and says, yes, he got all the information for all the high tracks, which would be one on the other side of Miami by Coconut Grove and also in South Beach. And then he got some names of the clubs, like Take One and other different popular clubs in Miami where you go to sell, the girls go. And he got the clearance to be able to put us in these places. And he was like, by tomorrow morning, you'll be gone. But I'm going to get every bit of my worth out of you tonight. And he took the young girl, and he began to beat her because he realized that was the only way to get to me. And then he told the bottom, separate them. You go with her. And you take, and I was just trying to get to Ashanti, like, I'm not make it to the night. I'm leaving. I'm going to die trying to make it home to my child. And I meant every word of it.
And at the time, your child was still in New Jersey?
Yes.
Okay.
And, let me go. I don't want to get too far in detail, but...
Whatever you like.
It was devastating when he knew about my child.
Mm-hmm.
I did try to reach out to my family for help because most people say, well, why you did? I did. And every time I called home, he knew. And he popped up where I was. And I got the worst beating I could ever have for reaching out to tell my family I needed help. And this is not what he said he was. And it hurt when I found out that they knew.
Somebody was in there telling him, somebody inside your family was relaying that to him.
That she called me and said this and that, and they didn't know what they were doing to me.
God.
Yeah, and I found out that my sister had taken my son. The weekend was gone,
Yeah.
And that she had filed custody and told everybody that I was a prostitute. So I knew what I was going home to.
Yeah.
But I wasn't going to stay there and die. I knew that was what was coming to me because I was not going to conform to what you wanted me to do. I didn't even understand, like, if I was going to sell myself for my son, it would be me making the decision to do so. I don't love this man enough to give him that part of me. And I don't think I could ever love a man that much. And that was the problem. Mm-hmm. So the abuse never ended. The sexual abuse, everything that you could think of to try to break a woman like me was done. But before that night, I'll never forget, 11:48, I met a prestige man. He pulled up on me in a limousine, and he said, I can tell by your walk that you don't belong out here. And I was disgusted instantly, like, what is this, my walk? And he was a prestige man, and I can't tell you to that degree, but he wanted to have sex with me. He took me to one of the best hotels in South Beach, and I was ashamed to go in there because of how I was dressed. Mm-hmm. And I looked at him, and I asked him, are you not ashamed? Look at yourself, and then look at me. Are you not ashamed that everyone will know what you're doing with me? And he gave me his jacket, and he threw it over me. He says, don't worry. He takes me up in this really high floor. I was just amazed at how beautiful this hotel was. And I'd been in many casino hotels, but I was just amazed at thinking of who this man was. And I get to this room and I strip naked, and he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. And he sits me down. He says, I'm going to need you to tell me who you are. And the tears went to flowing. And I couldn't stop myself from begging him to help me. I told him I was kidnapped and brought down there. And this man gave me $10,000. And he gave me a card. And he said, you don't have to go back out there. I will see that you get home. I said, I can't. It's something I need to do first. The 14-year-old girl, Ashanti, was still there. And if I would have left, Well, when I came out of that hotel, she was screaming for me.
You want to take a break? Okay.
And by the time I got to her, I was watching her body get dragged by a car. They had slit her throat.
My God.
John. And I was too long in that room. And I held her body, and at that moment I knew. I said, it's been too long. I'm going to die in this city. I ran, and I ran, and I ran. I came across another Italian man, and he owned a restaurant and something, and it seems like he just knew why I was coming. He didn't say anything, he just opened the door and said, go. I got to the back of his restaurant, it was two other men, and I broke down, and they said, quiet, quiet. It's okay, we understand. They sent me out the back gate, and they said, somebody else will be waiting for you. There was another man there, and he said, you can be safe here. And I looked up, and it looked like the same brownstone. It scared me, and I was like, oh, God, even though these people, I couldn't go. And he said, we'll give you more money. There's a strip behind here. It's a strip of hotels. Nobody will find you there. And if they do, come back. And I ran, and I found the strip, and it was so many of them. I was like, I can't go to the first one. I can't go to the second one. I went to the fifth one. That night, I wanted to die. I really hated life. I hated everything in it, especially money and the things that people would do for it and the things you gotta do for it.
I'm going to go, we'll pause real quick. I'm going to go, okay, we took a quick break, but so you meet these restaurateurs there, and they help you. They bring you to the back. They say, look, if you're scared to stay here, I get why. There's a set of hotels over here. You go there, you choose the fifth one. I think that's where we left off.
Yes. I've never been that afraid in my life that I wasn't going to make it home and that if I was caught, I was going to die. I didn't sleep that whole night. I tried to figure out my way in the morning. The worst thing, I had the same clothes on. So I got caught.
By the police?
No.
Oh.
He found me.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I was sold that day. And I would continue to be put on the track and beaten ridiculously in Miami for the next couple of months. And then finally, something reminded me that I had spent time in Georgia. It's so crazy because when you're hurt so much, you will put something away from you. But suddenly it came back to me. Get to Georgia. Get out of here. So what I did was I found my way to the hood, and I went and I asked, who runs this place? Who sees everything? I want to talk to him. And I'll never forget it. I was in the Grove, and they welcomed me because I had a northern accent at the time.
Wait, is this still Miami?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In the Grove, it's what one of the hoods are called.
Okay.
And all the gold in their mouth and stuff, they're looking like, oh my gosh, she's from up north. Yeah. And that Yankee accent is what draws Southerners to Northerners.
Sure.
Because they're like, say it again. Why do you talk like that? And
it happens to me when I go north.
Yeah, you see, so
yeah.
They were like, yeah, bring her. And I walked in, and it was like guns everywhere. And I was like, no, I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to the man. And I went back, and I went on 100% hood level. Look, I come from this hood, but I have no business here. And I told them what happened. And they were like, nah, we're going to go kill somebody. I'm like, no, there's something I need to do. I need to get home. So if you make it worse for me, I will never make it home. They're like, you don't have to leave. And I'm like, yeah, and I stayed too long in a place that I'm not from. It's a problem.
Yeah.
So getting down to the end, I managed to get into a club, an all-white club. Yes.
What, strip club?
Yes.
Okay.
And he was happy. My trafficker was happy about that because I had generated a lot of money. But it was only an attempt so I can get enough and get connected with somebody who was willing to help. Because in the Black community, it was so much like they knew what was going on. But it was like, you girls put yourself out there. It wasn't like, oh, God, they kidnapped her and brought her here.
Might be a little bit too of, I would imagine, fear of
Getting in
retribution
trouble.
upon them.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So it was like, you're not getting involved.
Yeah.
I'm not getting involved. So I'm like, I'm going to go find a white guy. He's going to get involved. And that was just, I'm going to tell you, that was my mindset at
Sure.
the time. Somebody I know, even in the midst of his desire, has a compassion. Even if you desire me, it's something about in you. I'm going to find that one. I didn't find it at this time.
Yeah.
But the first guy, I end up calling him again.
Is this
Yes.
the hotel?
Yes.
Okay.
And he's like, he didn't know who I was. It was like crazy. I had to get through so many secretaries. It was just like, who is this man really? And then he ends up calling the number back. And I'll never forget the whooping I got that day because the pimp felt like I was trying to put the police on him or something like of that nature.
How did he find that
Because they had tracking.
out? Okay.
And I didn't know, like, even in this time,
Yeah.
that if I made a call, his phone saw it.
Oh, God.
So this is, even in those times, like, even though we got the phone from him, everything, I got the razors, I got, like, they give you something called a whole bag. And it has condoms, razors, and one phone. And some people, if they're nice, they'll give you wipes. And this is what you are to keep with you out there in the street. The phone is for him, not for any other purposes. But I couldn't understand the technology at that time. How did you know where I was?
Yeah.
How did you know who I was calling? Even if I'm locked in a hotel room with someone else and I'm trying to get out, he would show up. So it was like scary.
Yeah.
You didn't know who was involved. You didn't know if you could ever get out. How I escaped was the weirdest way in the world. I think God works in mysterious ways. Like, it was like either I'm going to kill somebody today or I'm going to die, but I'm going to run. I got just enough money to get around the city and to get away out of here.
Just for timeline, between the time he found you at the hotel and now, how much time had passed? Roughly. Is this months, years?
Yeah, months.
Okay.
Like, he found me and sold me that day.
Okay.
So I'm with someone else now.
Okay.
And I don't know where he is. I don't know if the girls and them are continuing on their spree to make $150,000 a piece, but they were not going to leave that place until they did. It's quotas.
What period of time is this?
This is early 2003.
No. I mean, you said they all expected you all to make 150.
50,000.
And how long of a time?
You had 24 hours. And if not, you had to do it again and start over the next day. So the money you made the day before didn't count. Yeah, you're going to be out there from 12 a.m. to 12 a.m. nonstop, sleeping with people. And if you were good, you would rob people. You would get the perfect person and you would clean him out. And it's not out of disrespect, it's for your own good.
Yeah.
Why is my alarm going off?
That's all right. Must be time for something.
Yeah, my alarm. But it was a quota. And you know, some girls, when they invest a lot in your body, like the bottom of the original trafficker I had, he had her breast done. He had spent a lot of money investing in her.
Because he considers her a product.
Yes. So she generated a lot of money for him. top dollar money. And that's where they were sending me, into the top dollar field. You're young. You're touched, but you're not touched as much.
Yeah.
And this is into gang sexual desires or abusive sexual desires. What BDMS, tying people up and doing sick things like that. Yeah, people will pay a lot of money for things like that. To be able to do with you what they please for the amount of time that they can do it for. And that was it for me. I would rather die. I would really rather die. I ran through that city, crawling in the bottom of that city, in the worst hotels and everything to escape. When God put it on my heart, like, you got family in Georgia. I'm like, no, I don't. No, I don't. I'm going to a pedophile. Where am I going?
Yeah.
No, I don't. This is all that if you look at my record of how I got to this place, what is my mind state while I'm in this place?
And I would assume every man you met was a threat.
Yes.
At this point.
Yes, of course. For seriously. This turned me into an animal. I end up escaping. It was about almost a year. About 9.5 months. I got a ticket. I burnt through every dollar I could to get out of that city. And I finally got a Greyhound ticket, and I finally was able to sneak on the bus and get out, and I lost my insanity. I lost my mind on that ride home. Because even though I had escaped, it didn't escape me. Physically, my body was out of the life, but the life was inside of me.
And you were roughly 17?
Yep.
Okay.
Roughly 17. I get back to my family. Most people wanted to know where the money was. Yeah. It wasn't any, are you okay? Do you need help? We should send her to a therapist or a psychologist or get her medical care. None of that happened. Not once. It was, oh, she was a prostitute. And, oh, yeah, my sister. And the only way.
So they didn't see you as a victim.
Not at all.
They saw you as complicit.
Very much so. And I was so hurt because if I were to say anything, I would point out that you had a hand in this.
Yeah.
So it kind of broke my soul. Like, okay, well, I just came for him, my son. And she refused.
Wait, I'm sorry. Is this Georgia or New Jersey?
No, New Jersey. My son, I didn't go to Georgia. I caught the ticket and I went home.
Oh, you went straight to New Jersey. Okay.
Because my son.
Okay.
I had been gone too long.
Yeah.
I needed him to know that I didn't abandon him. I needed him to know that his mother didn't do what my mother did to me. And I didn't care if it was and I didn't even know if he remembered me. That's what's this hurtful thing. I looked my sister in her face and my soul broke that day. And she was like, if you go back down south, I'll give them to you. And I'm like, you're going to send me back to the people who wouldn't even take care of me.
Did she mean Georgia? Or
yeah.
Mine? Okay.
You want me to go back to them? I made one phone call to my uncle's wife. She had divorced my uncle. She had divorced my uncle. And she had one question for me. She said, did he really say and do those things? I said, yes. She said, your grandmother told me not to help you. But my mother said, we're going to help you. Come home. My Southern family was birthed that day. Them people took me in. I couldn't leave Jersey right away with my son, so I had to go down there with them and get myself together. They put clothes on my back. They took care of me. I remember my little cousins trying to stop me from killing myself night after night. And they couldn't understand, like, what is wrong? I tried to go to the mental place, everything. Now, I'm like, okay, I'm out of it. I got my child. What am I supposed to do now? I was internally dying, and I didn't have identity. Now, the messed up thing is my family held the keys to giving me that. Because I was a state child, birth certificate, Social Security, all of that was in the hands of someone else. So it wasn't any get out of the life and go build a regular life. Even though you don't have any skills or anything else, it wasn't no, just get out of this and go do this. I didn't realize how much of a burden I was to my aunt or her mother because they never told me. But I began to realize, like, I'm grown. Now, I need to take care of myself. I need to find a way to provide for this child. I can no longer let that control what happens now. Mm-hmm. So I seeked out services. I seeked out, and I kept getting this door closed in my face. You don't know who you are. You don't have an identity. We can't prove this is you. Only doors that opened was the doors I was able to use with the fake ID that my trafficker gave me. And you know what that door was? The strip club. For the remainder of the 17 years of my life. That means I'm 38. I spent to my 31st year in the strip club. Because I had to. I had no identity, I had no paperwork, and I had no way to provide.
So even if you wanted to get a secretary job,
I couldn't
do it.
I tried. Every year, I went back to my family and I begged them, please just help me get my paperwork. They were blinded by the money they saw me with. That no one cared to help me get out of it. Everybody was so pressed that keeping their foot on me at the bottom. That's her life. And never understood that wasn't anything I wanted for myself. At all. So, how I got out of that? 5 years ago. A friend. I never heard anything about human trafficking. I never knew anything about human trafficking. You know, when you grow up, you hear the story of the white van. Don't get in the stranger with the white van. I come from the 80s and 90s, so you know that was our conversation of stranger danger was the white van. Yeah. That was our conversation. Yeah, that too. Yeah. And you kind of stuck with that, but my life had deteriorated away from that white van. Life was way bigger than the white van. Yeah. What would it look like with me going back into society? A drug addict, an alcoholic.
At this point, were you doing drugs?
Yeah.
Okay, you were.
I definitely did. I didn't want to live. I went to mental institutions because I tried to kill myself. And the only thing they would tell me is, you're psychotic, you're this and that. But no one ever asked the right question. No one ever dug deep enough. They just looked at the file and said, whoa, she comes from heroin addict. She's this ward of the state. She's this, she's this, she's this, she's this. All of these labels, all of what the paper said about me is what they looked at. But they never understood, why is her behavior this way? And my path to Houston, I'm going to say it like this. My path to Houston, which got me where I am today, was because familiar trafficking began to happen in my son's life. Meaning, while I was dancing and doing other things, the family that I had showered him with, there was people grooming him.
Okay. I want to take just a quick catch up on some things.
Yes. Because I do jump because if you want the whole entire movie, you got to read the book.
Yeah, I know.
But I'm sorry. Love to get this. No problem. Come on.
I don't want to feel like I'm asking questions that may seem too minuscule to ask, but really, we that have never seen this do not know any of this. And so at this point, you had one child?
Yes.
And how? So he's a teenager at this point?
He's about 7, 8.
He's 7 or 8. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, 7 or 8. And you got him in Georgia.
Yep.
Okay, so your sister kind of made a deal. Said,
hey, she made a deal. She made a deal.
Stay with them, she'll let you.
If you go down there, I'll give him back. And the family took care of me.
Was that legally done, or was that just a handoff?
She had, while I was in with my trafficker, she filed papers to take him.
Yeah, I know. I remember you saying that. That's why I'm asking.
So when I got him back, I had to get my paperwork to get him back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that a difficult process?
Yes.
I bet.
It was really bad.
Especially when you don't have anything, nothing. Okay, so to catch up at where we are, you had been in the strip clubs. Now,
Now I'm living the autonomous life, which means I am in the life for survival reasons. Like I'm selling myself for survival.
Yeah. It's either that or don't eat.
Don't eat. Don't have a place to stay. Don't have anything.
Okay. So you kind of, before we started recording, you kind of, you told me a little bit about what you're about to tell me.
Yes.
And so we're going to start there with your son.
Okay. For me, I was trying to survive, and I was so focused on that, giving him something that he never had, like work. And I'm doing this by stripping and putting myself out there. And I'm thinking that he's protected. And that part of my life was closed. But something was brewing in the background that I didn't even see because I wasn't watching for it. And it started with, let's play the game together. And he's always around them playing the game, having fun, that type of activity. And then it starts off, he gets out of school and goes to his friend's house. Friend has an older brother, and they're playing the game, that kind of activity. Then this activity turns into them touching him. Or
are these your family members?
Extended family members.
Extended family.
Giving him things to perform sexual acts on him. And when it became a medical problem, because he began to display certain behaviors. And when you take him to the doctors, they begin to tell you, yes, somebody has touched this child. And you're facing charges. And I don't know what's going on. As a mother, I'm dying because what I did is let my child down. So I had to sit him down and play psychology with him to find out what was going on. And he was saying, yeah, I go to my friend's house and his brother teaches me how to play, touch your body. And oh, wow, now I understand. But when a 9-year-old can vividly tell you what you do with petroleum jelly and things like that, now this is a problem. We went through 5 cases with the state where they sent us to advocacy, made him tell the story over and over again, and no justice.
No charges or anything?
No.
What was the reason given for that?
They just said, I'm so sorry, Miss McGee, we cannot prosecute. We will not be able to prosecute at this time. And that was it. Can you imagine what that did to him at 8, and then again at 9, and then again at 12?
He's been failed as well.
At 12, he wanted to kill everybody. At 12, he ran to the gang. At 12, he was, Mom, I will kill you because you should have picked up the gun instead of making me do that over and over again for nothing. And it got to the point where I started to see different types of people attach themselves to my child. Oh, he's just my little homie. So you go and buy him a video game? Oh, he's just my homeboy. So you go and buy him expensive clothes. Oh, well, you're in his way and you let him stay with you. You're grooming my child. And it became from different angles of different people in society. It came from social media. It came from the neighborhood. It came from people who were supposed to be mentoring him. Their sick desires began to be projected into what he was lacking. A father, love, family, care.
Protection.
It wasn't until I met my fiance now, and he was a U.S. veteran. He came out of that thing like, okay. And I tried to run him away. I told him everything. I took him for a drink and I told it all. I was like, here, pour this brandy. Let me tell you something. And he was like, oh, whoa, you've been hurt too many times in life. Your kids have been hurt.
Wow.
And you know what he said? I don't ever want you to hurt again.
When was this?
2018.
Oh, gosh. I met him. I I didn't know it was that recent. Okay.
And he chased me for a whole year. That was my first job. This is what happened.
Okay, let me real quick. I'm sorry, because I know.
I'm gonna go back and give it to you.
Okay.
Okay.
I want to make sure.
I got in the state of Georgia, they give everybody voter rights.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have identity, you can go and get a voter's registration picture ID.
Mm-hmm.
And that was how I could get food stamps, Medicaid for him. They couldn't give me housing because you still needed birth certificate, social security card for him and for me. So that they couldn't do. But this voter registration ID has got me my first employment in distribution. And in 1 year, one opportunity, I became the most well-known, hardest working woman in distribution. I learned the whole inbound, outbound. I could do the manager's job. I was looking at the supervisor like, you managed me, I'm gonna supervise you today because you don't know what you're doing. In a year, I was on the travel team. Gone. That girl works. I don't know. And I was.
What led you to do that? Was it your son?
I wanted out.
Okay, so that was it.
I was crying to God. Like, it wasn't even the money.
Yeah.
Because I had it.
Yeah.
I was done. I was tired. My life, I don't want to live like this anymore. I want a chance to do something.
Because you mentioned earlier a friend had.
Yes, I'm going to tell you. I didn't get there yet. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet.
Okay,
so
sorry.
I'm working on the voter registration. That's the only form of ID. Finally, you get a little piece of something. You feel like, yes, my world has changed. I got identification. I can do something. Yeah, it's a minimum. But it was okay. I walked to that distribution place and they're looking at me like, you don't have no work history. This is scary. But give me a chance. And I worked so hard. It was a therapy. Tears went to flowing out of my eyes because for the first time in my life, I was doing something with clothes on. And I wasn't swinging around nobody's pole. And so it was like, girl, you can do this. You can take on the world. Baby, you are bigger than that. Yeah. You need to learn this for yourself. And every day I didn't mess with anybody but my job. And I superseded everybody's expectations. Yeah. I had awards around my neck like I've been there for 10 years. I had surpassed everyone. And this is where I met my fiance. And right out of his military, he went there and worked. And I guess so God had positioned him there and me there. And I was at my worst because I'm going through all these sexual things with my son. The state is like breathing down my neck if they're going to take my children away from me. Because now I got 2 more at this point, 2018. My son was the only son for 10 years. My kids are 10 years apart.
Okay.
That's how hurt I was in life. Like, nah, you men are crazy. But when I tell you, this man here, he stalked me. He watched me. He looked at me. I'm like, what are you looking at? What do you want from me? I don't know. It's just something about you. I met somebody from Texas distribution, which Houston distribution was the best in the network.
Okay.
So if I wanted to consider myself successful, I had to get to Houston.
Okay. Well,
and they were like,
it isn't a lot of work, you know. You got to move to where
you can elevate.
Where you can elevate, yeah.
And this would be the first time in my life. I'm 31. I'm 31 years old, and I finally got a break.
But that's still young enough.
That's why I didn't stop. Yeah. That's why I was like, I'm taking it. I got with him after a year. I was like, what do you want? I took him out for a drink and I told him everything about me and he didn't flinch.
He didn't flinch.
At all. He was just like, he dropped a tear and he was like, no woman should ever hurt like that.
Yeah.
And from that, I was like, okay, this is different. Who is this man? Let me run him away. And he stuck at it. My kids came to him and said, what do you want? Why are you here and how long are you here? And when a kid asks you something like that, you know that it's been on their heart.
Oh, yeah.
Like, my mom has been through enough. So what do you want, sir? He's like, I want all of you. You don't have a father, but you have one now. I'm going to make sure you guys heal. And you cannot heal in the place where you keep hurting. We have to leave. And when I tell you, he walked with me, we put our transfer in to Houston so we could become supervisors in Houston's distribution. Man, we were gone. We were gone. I got here. I went crazy. And I went to tell God, like, I moved in neighborhoods and I started to see things that I recognized, but I didn't know what it was. It was like...
You mean here in Houston?
Yeah. It's like I saw myself. But I was like, no, I'm tripping. That's not what I think it is. No, something's wrong with me. I'm tripping. I'm skizzing. This energy, something's off. And I moved off of Tidwell, dead in the middle of the hood. And I start seeing everything. Now, my oldest son is with me. He goes to the streets and he starts bringing people home. My mom needs to talk to you. My mom needs to talk to you. My mom needs to talk to you. And I'm like, no, I don't. Do I need to tell these people? Mom, you need to tell them the truth. She's selling her body at the bus stop, Mom. It's not right.
Oh my God, it became a mission for him.
Yeah, and it became my mission. I began to house people. I began to clothe people. I began to talk to everyone. The neighborhood became mine. And I still didn't know anything about anti-human trafficking. I didn't even know I was trafficked. I really just felt like
you didn't think of yourself as a trafficked human being.
I thought I was kidnapped. That's all. I was kidnapped and forced into doing things I didn't want to do. But because my family had named me a prostitute, I always blamed myself. Even though I was a child, I blamed myself.
I think that's why a lot of people, and again, I explained the reason I wanted to do this. And I think a lot of people, they don't see, you were in it and you don't really understand it at this point. And it's kind of exists. It's hard to explain, but on a different plane of reality. Yeah. And it's really shadowy, incredibly shadowy. And it's hard to notice. Yeah. You can see go down the street and, since I've been involved, I know there's one street here where they talk about it, but still, it's
more than one. But they emphasize on one.
Yeah.
I mean, like in the general public, you'll see it, and you won't really give it the in-depth thought you should,
or any at all.
It's just there because you're so used to seeing it as you're passing. It's just normal, but this should not be our normal.
They see it, and look, I'll admit it. It was me too. I'd see it as, hey, that's several women making their own decision. That's just a few women. There's not a lot of it.
I'm going to tell you, when I became autonomous, there is a lot. Some of my greatest friends who are still in the life, they chose that route. Mm-hmm. They wanted to, they actually chose that route. So when they hear my story, they're like, wow, you ended up in the same place with me, but you're different. Girl, I don't have a problem with this. Well, I have a problem with this for both of us.
Yeah.
But it means that your morals and values have left you at an early age.
Or never developed at all.
Your self-worth is not activated to the point where you don't sense this is wrong.
Yeah. So we learned about that in our training.
Yeah.
We learned about that in training.
And when I tell you, even the distribution business, even when I'm going to tell you, and it's funny because you're into safety, right? Mm-hmm. They didn't know how to take me. This woman works extremely hard, but she keeps breaking down.
Scared them a little bit.
A lot. Mm-hmm. Because I'm the person you call on. So everybody stayed away from me. Like they didn't know how to address anything that should be addressed. Mm-hmm. And when I couldn't take it anymore and I started pouring out and they heard, oh my God, what I was going through, they froze and walked away like, oh, we're not going to talk to her about that anymore because it's too much. But it's like, whoa, I work for you. You want to know what you see me going through every day? This is the pain. This is it. This is exactly what you see.
Yeah.
And I had been in so many abusive relationships. To this point, I really felt like that was a part of me. Until I met the man I'm with now, mm-hmm. I found out that men are not supposed to hit you mm-hmm. or mistreat you or anything like that.
And are you married when you get here to Houston?
No, we're not yet. As soon as our case, he's my fiance. So we're trying to wait for all this.
That's not what I was meaning to ask. I was just meaning to ask, was he here with you?
Yes, he is here. He's the reason we got here.
Okay.
He came.
So,
he
and you
brought
guys
us.
are both still working for the same.
Yes, we were both working for Home Depot. He was in quality assurance, and I'm outbound forklift driving. I'm probably the best forklift driver you ever went.
That is such a you thing to say.
I am. I'm trying to tell you, I can drive it with my eyes closed.
That is a you thing to say.
I am probably the best forklift driver you have ever seen.
Oh, that's awesome.
And men would be like, but I don't bet on anybody but her.
Okay. Okay. So you're in a new city. You're helping young
My
people you
community,
see
yep.
in your community. It's not an organized thing. It's not a part of any organization. Now you are a part of several things, and I do want you to talk to the audience about that.
Yes,
and what you're doing, and the things that you've gotten involved in. And you know, I didn't know you'd been here only that short a period of time. I assumed looking at the plethora of things that you're involved in, that looks like a 15 to 20 year process.
Oh, no.
But again, it's you, so it's probably a 6-month process. And so tell us about
let me tell
some of the organizations that you're working with and what you're doing.
Let me tell you how I got there. My friend, I started this before, my friend, she's from here.
Yeah.
She's a great woman. She's a policy advisor. And she goes in the anti-human trafficking movement. I was in a production that was a trafficking production. And it was a live experience where you can walk in and experience what it feels like to be in a room. And I was that one. So reacting that part of my life, I did it for them. And it was for the KD20 or something. And I did it or the Houston 20. It was a program and it was really eventful. And one of the women stepped out and her tears started bawling. She was like, "You're a survivor, aren't you?" And this was that's my great friend now. Okay. And I was like, yes. And we're like, I'm like, "Baby, you can't be crying and I can't be crying. This is not that kind of moment I want here, okay?" Like now, she gives me her card and I was like, "I seen this seal before." And it was a government seal. Oh, God said talk to her. So I went to telling her, "Look, this is who I am. This is where I'm at." She sent me the person who would get my identity. Yes.
Oh,
she
God.
sent me the person who would fight for me, file the paperwork to fight the state of Pennsylvania. I'm like, what? I grew up in Jersey. to get my birth certificate. And for the first time in over 20 years, I was presented with my documents. As soon as I seen it, I went to school. I went to professional development and I went to survivor school. I went hard. I got into 1211 Kathy's mentorship program, and she taught me the anti-human trafficking language. That's when it was a backslap in my face, like, that's what they mean when they say survivor? So there's a name to my pain now. So I'm not the only one actually hurting like this. So I'm not crazy. This is something serious. And I was a part of it. And then I didn't know how much I knew until I had the opportunity to speak, because I'm talking to people in the movie. I'm like, "You don't know about this? Since we're all here and we all been through this, you never went up there or down here or around there?" And I'm like, "I'm happy you didn't, because it's bigger than Houston." And now it made me even worse. Like, that's what made me jump into the movement so fast, because I know what the network outside of Houston is. So if I-10 goes from Georgia, Florida, all the way up, it's bigger than what I thought it was.
Yeah.
It's bigger than what I thought it was. So that's when I discovered the purpose in the pain. It kind of like changed from discouraged to courage, like from fear to faith. It changed because now I know I made it, why I made it. Now I know that I'm not what happened to me.
Exactly.
I'm not that.
Yeah.
Everybody, yes, there are some sick people in this world, but it's not everybody. And you will find the right people. I am hyper aware of what I need to be hyper aware of. And I'm happy for that, because there's a lot of women who are not aware. For themselves, for their families, for their children. You're just oblivious to what can actually happen. So if I had to go through that to be that voice, that's why I took off building. And it actually my son got shot.
Oh.
He got shot in the chest. But it was a blessing, because it birthed everything. It got him out of the street.
It's a wake-up call.
Yes, it was like a slap to my whole entire family.
So was this in Houston?
Yes.
So
it
he
was in
started.
Houston.
Did he start gangbanging in Houston? Is that what he got involved in?
He just ran to the streets.
Ran to the street.
And I'm not going to say he wasn't. He was deep in the streets. But at this time, he was innocent. He stayed in Galveston with a girl, like, you know, and he came home to see me. And he was just like, Mom, you're struggling. I'm like, I'm good, though. I'm good. I got everybody. I'm taking care of everybody. He's like, I don't like this. I'm like, everybody. Next thing you know, I was at the store. I had just left Kathy. I had just met Kathy. I went to the store and I seen him there with a young boy. I said, hey, I got chicken and stuff for us to eat. Let's go home. He's like, wait, Mom, I'll be there. Give me 2 minutes. By the time I got home and sat down, I started praying. Somebody ran up the steps. Your son's been shot twice in the chest. Hurry up. Your son's been shot. He didn't do it. They know me about how I feel about my kids. Like, oh, he better die because here I come. And they're like, no, he didn't do it. It was the boy he was with. Something happened. I don't know, a robbery in progress. But your son had nothing to do with it. Man, we ran. I just called out. And his body collapsed in the street in between me and my fiance. And his brothers are there. I got an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old. And I'm like, I lost everything the same day. My apartment, everything. My fiance lost his job. Everything in one day.
And this is when you're in Houston?
Yeah.
Wow.
This was January 24th. Kathy came and she said, Dominique, you have been so strong for everybody your entire life. Maybe it's time for you to be strong for yourself. Maybe things like this happened because you're the one that needs the help now. And I finally was in a position like, you're right. I'm always the leader, for the forefront, when I am hiding so much. I'm not being honest. I got my mental health together. I got, he fought for his life 4 months in the hospital. I went to the shelter. I studied every day in that shelter. I didn't let the bottom make me believe, this is where I have to be so I know how to come up. It had to be where I needed to be so I didn't go backwards. I didn't seek out what I already knew, but I kept forward and learning new things about myself and my capabilities. That's where Breaking Chains was built, in the shelter. When I got out, I spoke every week in the shelter. I went to the Covenant House. I went to different places and no one knew that I had to go home to the shelter. But it was okay because I was building what I am now. And now
What year was this?
Last year. Last January 24th.
1 year ago?
Yes.
You're...
I never stopped acting. I was acting. I did 3 movies in the shelter.
This is my 50th oh my God moment with you.
I wrote my book in the shelter. I graduated school. Yeah.
It reminds me of The Pursuit of Happiness when you say that. Remember that movie? He's sitting there going through his entire financial training while going home to a shelter at night.
Yes.
And it was true.
And it's the dead truth. And how I'm able to do it now is because I know this. I am not what happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
I am better than what happened to me. And it had to happen because I am able now to stand in the forefront for those who don't have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not alone. And now that I open up the world and it said anti-human trafficking, and there's so many people whose voice are silenced and closed out. It's so many doors who don't even know that they have resources for them. And if you imagine me being that one in the community, now I can do it the right way, the proper way. And I got myself help in the process. Yeah. It was amazing.
As you were talking, I was at 1 or 2 points in my head. I went, why didn't you walk into a church? Why didn't you walk into this place? And you're right. You don't, if you everybody that you've ever been around is betraying you, you don't know where resources are. You don't know you never got to grow up.
No.
And that's why you didn't see that and see those things. And who knows if they would have eventually been a help. But I want to stay where we are now. So, because I want Breaking Chains to be described. Can you tell us exactly what that is?
Oh, yes. Breaking Chains is a secondary care service. You know, after you get your medical care and your mental care, we help you get your life back together. You don't have to live in the life. You don't have to go back to the life. You don't have to live a street life, you know? So what we do is we help you professionally and personally grow. We work with support groups. The necessary need for community support and personal support is serious. It's better to sit with somebody who has been through something that you're experiencing than someone who is judging you.
Okay.
Someone who has, they might have a degree in it, but they don't have the experience. So only their aspect of how they're looking at you is judgmental. Well, you could have did this, you could have did that. But when you're talking to me, I know that you didn't have any other choice. It's only compassion, care, and love, and restoration. We provide intervention, prevention, and restoration services because we want to be able to, how I figured it, I did it like this when it came to breaking chains. It is a survivor for anti-human trafficking. It's survivor-led, which is me, and it is for those. But I want a little before that to abuse and trauma because I was abused before. I was introduced to physical abuse and sexual abuse before. I was raped before. I was beat before I went into trafficking. So my mindset, I was prepared. I was a target for that. So if I can work with those who are at risk of, who are already experiencing this part of life and can't get it right, I can direct your path, aid, walk around you, walk with you to betterment.
And I want to clarify something you said there and make it clear. I learned in the training that what you just said is true. These people are looking for young people who are broken, who have been abused.
Yes.
Because it's easier.
If you ever get a chance to read The Game, it's a book called The Game. It's by one of the original pimps from Chicago. And they break down the pimp code. In this book, it breaks down the psychological aspects of how they get the woman. And most of them don't chase women who don't have a background of abuse.
They don't?
They don't.
Okay.
That's the prime suspect. Someone who is already touched, already isolated, already discarded. Because you come in like the knight in shining armor and give them everything that they lack. A woman who doesn't have a
nice
lack or a need,
and things like that.
You cannot manipulate her. But a woman who has nothing but lacks and needs, self-confident issues, things like that, you prey on every last bit of it. So in breaking chains, it's about building yourself sufficiently, building yourself.
So you worked with survivors.
Survivors, at-risk youth, and young adults. I work with them all.
How do you, and I guess this is a way, incredibly broad question, but how do you discover who is I know we can easily see it, but how do you identify them on a personal level? Like, okay, this young lady here is at risk.
Behavior traits.
This is something you're seeing it with your own eyes.
Yeah, okay. I'm very keen, and I am good at approaching people's pain because I see it. I'm an empath, and I know it because I experienced it. That's all I know about my life is different levels of pain, of abandonment, of abuse. It's just things that I can identify in people. And you carry yourself a certain way. And it's a certain energy you give off. And it's most of the time, I don't say, hey, I'm here to help you, this and this and this. I just ask a simple question. Are you okay? Not what everyone wants to know, but I'm talking to you directly. Are you okay? Because something I see tells me you're not okay. Then the tears come and they get to saying, well, since you asked me, I have a great listening ear. And there's key words that allow me to know, oh, this person's not safe. They're not in the right mindset. Oh, this man doesn't care about me. I give him all of myself. Things like that. Like just certain things that happens. Or my lights are cut off and I got kids in the house and I'm about to go do what I need to do. No, you're not. There's certain things that people say that I'm very understanding of what it means.
Sure.
I come from your community. I know the game. I know the slang. Don't say it. Or I'm going to intervene and I'm going to snap.
Yeah. People who have never been without have no idea what it's like to be without. I mean, I didn't grow up poor, but I sure didn't grow up with a lot of means. And a lot of the people that I surround myself with and have surrounded myself with since college came from very affluent backgrounds, and they just don't understand the plight of us that grew up without much.
Just having to make it work. You know what I'm saying? Your parents had to provide.
They had to do everything.
And it was a check-to-check basis versus someone who doesn't even know what that looks like.
Yeah.
Or it seems like, so they cannot comprehend this woman had to go through this for that reason. Because you won't never know what it feels like to have to not have Pampers, or your lights are off, or you're about to get stashed out into the road. And if you don't do something right now, you're going to lose your child. Because what happens is the state says, well, you can't provide for them. You can't do this. You can't do that. So that means you're unfit. So what would you do to prove that you're fit to keep your children?
Whatever it took to make
Whatever it took. And that's the life I had to live. And I begged. I reached out. I cried. Help me, please. Just give me my identity so I can go to school. So I can be able to do what I know inside of my soul that I can do.
Yeah.
And the door was always closed. And I know what that feels like. Most of us in marginalized communities, we're coming from broken homes. We're coming from barely making it. We're coming from struggle on a high level. So what that enters into a context of a place where what? We don't have lack. What are you going to do? Predatorial mindsets come out. How can I get it? Even if it's a parent who's willing to turn a blind eye for the kids to be touched so they can have food. Even if it's whatever the scenario may be, I saw fit to work on necessity needs.
A couple of questions I kind of wanted you to answer and you to give to the audience is, what would you tell a parent listening to say, look, we just discussed, we're looking for children who are isolated and things like that. Well, I'm assuming not all of them are like this. So what would you tell a parent, because look, the statistics show they pan out. Most kids are out of wedlock now. They're single parent. They're home with a mother.
Yep.
And what would you tell these single parents to look out for? Is there any behavior? Is there anything in particular to think that to identify if the grooming process may be going on with their child?
Yes. For one, you have to have an open line of communication with your children. And I had to really understand this because I was a dictator mom. This is a dictatorship, not a bureaucracy. You're gonna listen to what I say. And until I started listening. And it's watching their company, their friends. Are they willing to talk to you about what they and their friends do? Are they willing to talk to you about the company that they keep or the places that they go? Or is this restricted to you? If you ask about these things, are they upset? Or they feel like you're violating their privacy? Because that's something, why is it so personal that you don't want me to know about this friend? Is this friend isolating you in a way where I'm the only one that cares about you and you can count on me? And that always happens between a relationship between a child and a parent. When the relationship between the child and the parent is challenged, someone can always come in and tell that child, hey, I got your back. I'll be there for you. You don't got to listen to your mom. That's an scapegoat. So when you want to really pay attention to your child's actions, one, it starts with recognizing your relationship with each other. Do we have an open end of communication? Can I talk to my child about anything? Do I make it easy for my child to talk to me about anything? Whether I want to hear it or not, whether I like what he's going to, or he or she is going to say. You have to be open to that. Because that's the one, because once you start shutting your kids out, you start shutting the truth out. You don't get to the bottom of it. Their friends do. The homegirl that they're with all the time, or their friend, they get to know about the new man that they just met on Instagram, or their friend that's going to fly them out from Facebook. You wouldn't know because you don't have that kind of relationship. But things that happen, like when you're children, a lot of the things I see when they go in broken homes, they look for outside comfort. And that's another way traffickers get to them, because they relate to their problem at home. So it's best also, once again, talk to your children about what's going on. Make sure you're fully immersed in what's going on in their life as well. And including the company that they keep. And when it came to me, how I noticed that my son's mentor I had an unhealthy thing with him because he would be at my house on Saturday. When mentoring was on Thursday, when I wasn't home, you were there and you were talking to him about my schedule. So that right there rated a whole red flag for me. Like, no, you're trying to ask him when it's okay for you to be here when I'm not here, and you feel comfortable enough. And he felt comfortable enough with you to tell you. So it was a thing that I was left out on when I came home and your mentor and you were hanging out. No, this is not what it's for. You work for the government, sir. You have a specific time where you're supposed to be here. My son, like, you're in the way. You're in the way of my friendship. So now I'm in the way. I'm the bad guy. And they provided him with an outlet where you can come stay at my house. You can come and do this. You can come and do that. And you don't have to hear any of that.
So they try to separate you from your
Yes, they separate you. And then when they separate you, they isolate you and make you believe that I'm the only one that cares.
Okay.
And then they will shower them with anything and everything. If your child likes video games, you got it. If your child likes nice clothes, nice phones, nice whatever it may be, that comes because it appears to the lack. It appears to the discomfort. It appears to the problem. It appears to whatever damage that is going on. So it's best as parents, we do damage control, evaluating ourselves and do damage control. I know, like, I'm a helicopter mom. I don't like my young kids. They cannot be on Facebook, Instagram, anything like that. And because I'm a helicopter mom, my 10-year-old is always in trouble with stealing phones. So I'm like, who are you trying to keep up with? You got somebody you need to talk to across the world? No, you don't. This is what I have an open line of communication to figure, to figure out what this is about. His friend is allowed to have a phone, and his friend has open access to Pornhub. You know what I'm saying? And the friend has open access to cams and all of this stuff. So exposure. Now that he has already been pre-exposed, I'm in the way. So anybody who else that comes and compensates into that exposure for him, he's going to lie to me. He's going to hide from me. He's going to tell me one thing when he's really doing another thing because this person has made him feel comfortable. Okay. To go against me, to go against what my rules, to go against what I said. And it has to do internet. I'm like monitor the internet, monitor everything that you have to. And this day and time, it's so widespread. I just did a research on groups on TikTok with naked photos of boys. Yes, it's you can join the profile, but you won't see anything on the profile at first, but they give you a login information. And once you put that login information in, it's wide open kitty. The most sick things like, oh my gosh. And these are social media platforms now we're talking about. There's no way for us, like we're older. You know what I'm saying? So we're not really in it like they're in it.
Yeah.
And if they're all constant.
We weren't raised by it.
Right. And now they can tell more about it than we do.
Sure.
So they know how to do the hidden messages. They know how to do the lock you out of this message and subscribe to this. They know how to get to our children.
No, they're after them too.
And they're after them every way, shape, or form. So my best thing for parents is, I know, like, we have this thing where we want the kids to listen to us, do what I say and not what we do. But we really need to open up a line of communication that they understand the dangers of what is out there and that we understand the company that they're keeping, their mindset, and their very desires. I have this thing where I watch what my kids want.
You do what?
I watch what they want.
Oh, okay.
I watch what they want because certain things still go out. You know how certain kids will go so far as I'll take it because I want it that bad. So if somebody was able to offer you this, would you take it?
Yeah.
Would you lie to me to get it? Would you go and meet them? If they said they had this box for you, would you leave and go? Because if you would, we have problems that we need to discuss. Because this game that they have, you can go to a stranger and you can disappear. Then what happens when you lied to mommy the whole entire time?
So really, I mean, you said an enormous amount there.
I did. It's just...
But really, it boils down to the open communication.
open community, because how can you can't force your children to tell you anything. The more you push, the more they push back.
You know, and I've learned. I'm not a parent, so but I've learned from parents. I have almost everybody in my life has children. Outside of just protecting them from that, it's also very keen in sex education.
Yes,
I've read everything I've ever read says that the more you talk about this and the more you're open to it and comfortable with it, the less likely they are to have children at a young age.
Yes.
All this stuff. So yeah, everything says that you're absolutely right about that. But
and it's the truth, and it's uncomfortable.
It's really uncomfortable.
It's really uncomfortable to say, hey, I don't want you to be as open as you are on the internet, because you can possibly put yourself in a trafficking situation. Your kids are going to look at you crazy.
I couldn't even hold my girlfriend's hand in front of my mother when I was like 20-something years old.
We had to put that little ledge in between you, like you have to have a room between you two.
Yeah.
Now it's crazy.
It was so embarrassing. It was so uncomfortable. But the other question I wanted you to ask or answer is before we end the discussion, really. And you may not have a direct answer for this, but what would you tell a woman who, it could be a man, but let's just say it's a woman. You offered a scenario a few minutes ago of a woman who could not feed her children, who could not do any of this.
Right.
So she had to do what she had to do. And you said no. What would you say to a woman who's in that position? She's got children. She doesn't know what to do. How does she handle it?
There are resources for you. I know that at times you feel like this is it. That's all you got to do. But when I tell you don't give up, keep banging on the door, keep looking. And I know that the need sometimes is immediate, meaning you don't have tomorrow, you don't have next week. So the best thing I can say, let's try to work on our situations beforehand. Let's normalize actually reaching out for help. I know many of us has been let down and doors have been closed, but I am one relentless woman. That's why I built Breaking Chains, so we can provide emergency assistance. We can provide food. We can provide clothes. We can help you guys get to the doctors, because we don't want you to have to do what you got to do. We don't want you to have to put yourself or your children in any type of harmful situation. So there are resources. And that's another thing where I'm going crazy with all of the organizations, like we have to go to the community.
Yeah.
We can't sit in one spot and say, hey, we got resources over here, but you have to get over here. No, we need to be in these places where they are most vulnerable, where it's actively going on, and provide resources. And we need to be dedicated to it. We need to be consistent at it. So they know that we're not going to fail them in the long run.
Yeah.
Because the one thing about services, they're not consistent. They might be here today and say, yeah, you got your application, everything looks good. Next week, you're denied. Then what?
Yeah.
If we got the resources as organizations and people who are here in position to help others, we got to come together. We got to pull our resources together and get in these communities to infiltrate everything. We can no longer stand on the outsides holding signs saying anti-human trafficking, anti-this, anti-that. We need to infiltrate and get involved. There's people going through real life struggles, real life problems that us holding that sign is not going to change.
Yeah. And have courage.
Yes.
Because this is, if you're on the ground level of this, it's dangerous.
Yes.
These people will kill you if you take their women away from them.
Yes.
And so, that was one of the first things we learned when we go out and rescue women who are ready to be brought in and ready to go through the process. It's dangerous.
It is dangerous. I don't expect anybody to be a vigilante. I definitely don't want that. Sure. I definitely don't want that, because you'll be doing it. You'll be putting people in danger. Yeah. You'll be doing worse than what you would be doing could. Yeah. But I do want you to understand that your voice is useful. You can educate yourself, your family, your communities, your job. Any way that you can be involved in your own capacity, do so. Do so. And it's more so just knowing about it and not speaking on it. Everybody has a fight in this. Everybody can do something. Mm-hmm. It's up to you what that something is.
Yeah.
Even if it's offering a survivor an opportunity to learn a new skill. Yeah. Whatever it is, do it.
I don't know if they that's exactly what I'm doing.
Yes, come on.
They tell you that?
No.
That's that was the, going through the process and trying to figure out, okay, what can we do? What can we do? What would be best for me? I'm going to help with vocations.
Yes, go.
So I'm working right now with a medical company that's going to look at. So I guess the greatest barrier was the police.
Yes. Yes.
Your background check, your criminal history.
Yes.
And so you got a criminal history. Bam. Company says no.
Nope.
We're working with a medical company to do that.
Yes.
I'll give a shout out to Schlumberger here in town. Schlumberger, not directly with survivors, but they have done a similar process with they're giving felons a chance, and it's working out extremely well. So it's got to happen on both ends because it was a program called Bridges to Life. It's here in town. It works with that too. It's kind of I wouldn't say it's a sister program, but it's something similar to help people that are in dire, conditions that can't seem to have a chance. So one thing I'm looking at, I'm in textiles. And so I'm looking at we're looking at some type of scenario where we bring products and their textile machines are done. So when you say find a niche, you don't have to save the world.
No.
You can save one person.
One.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing of most survivors. I can't get a job. I got a record. And some of them have really big ones. Mm-hmm. How can you even at-risk youth, if you want them to change, but they got records and you won't give them an opportunity, you're sending them back to do nothing. You're sending them back to cause danger and trouble. If you don't want that, and even I stress this, the biggest economic positive impact we can make is to uplift that community. Yeah. Uplift the survivors, uplift the at-risk youth and the young adults. If we push those that need it the most, everybody has a talent that you can offer somebody who has not had the chance to learn it. Everybody has a skill that you're great at. That somebody, if you pass that skill on, you give somebody an opportunity to do something different with their life.
Chris Gardner, the writer of The Pursuit of Happiness is About, said that exact same thing.
I'm serious.
He says a book called Start Where You Are, and it says that exact same thing. He goes, you go back and you think about all the people in your life that disappointed you. Your parents might not have been what you wanted them to be. They may not have given you the childhood you wanted to be, your siblings, but they all taught you something.
Yes.
They all gave you something. And you said, you got to start looking at it that way. All these people have something. Look for that instead of looking for the bad. One last thing I want to ask you to tell, where can we find information about you, Breaking Chains? Where can people go to look at that?
Okay, definitely. You can find more information about our nonprofit organization. Please be wary of the spelling. I had to do it the hood way. Even Mr. Jeff here is like, what? Yeah. I'm sorry. All right, it's BREAKIN, chains, KHAINZ. Yes, I did spell chains with a K. It's okay. KHAINZ, Breaking Chains. You can also find me as Ruby Red Raw on Facebook, and that's RUBYREDRAW on Facebook, Instagram, and I'm also on LinkedIn as Dominique McGee. Please connect with me. Thank you, Mr. Jeff, for this opportunity to speak with you and to get my story out there and just to educate and hopefully uplift and get other people involved. I thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, thank you so much. It was in my heart from a while to start telling these stories, and yours is incredible. I mean, it has everything. Your story is heartbreaking. It's so uplifting at the same time. And like I said, if a person who had not gone through what you've gone through, or a tenth of what you've gone through, looks at your life, they may feel sad themselves, but whatever is inside of you. Resist that now, and you have such a spirit.
I don't believe in letting it hold me down. It made me, over time, I discovered, like I said, purpose in the pain, which gave me a fire. It gave me a strength, and it gave me a passion that burns inside of me that I can't look back at what hurts me as something that didn't build me.
Yeah.
Because now I'm here and I'm a warrior, baby. You can't stop me. I'm in the room. My presence is there, and my voice is very clear. And it takes you to go through stuff.
Yep. So I'll put your information also.
Sure.
In when we announce the podcast here in a couple of weeks, it'll be the first one. Again, just a reminder to everyone, this is the first of 5. We are talking to a couple more women who are survivors to learn their stories as well. They're all a little different.
Yes.
They're all gives you a different idea of how things can happen and how they, in the end, you'll be uplifted by how they survived it and how they overcame it. But we're also going to talk to people who are that are helping.
Yes, who are in the movement, baby.
Who are in the movement. We're going to be talking to David Reed, who is an important part here, and a couple people who are committed on the recovery house side of the things.
Yes.
And I'm going to be talking to either both of them or one of them.
Okay.
So we'll see. I'm not sure who that's going to be, but I hope the audience really, I hope they got out of this what I did. And that was to learn an enormous amount, to be made aware of just how unbelievable this problem is.
Yes.
And figure out a way to help.
Thank you.
Thank
for
you,
your time.
Dominique. Thank you
No
so
problem.
much.
For listening. We hope you enjoyed the show and accept the mission. Please subscribe to the Mission Zero podcast on your preferred streaming service and be sure to give us a 5-star review.